So the topic of today's video is, did we just achieve AGI? What is AGI? AGI is Artificial General Intelligence. Basically an artificial intelligence system that's able to do a generalized tasks, including reason, using strategy, solving puzzles, making judgments under uncertainty, representing knowledge, planning, learning, communicating in natural language, and if necessary, integrating these skills in the completion of any given goal. So, whenever I say these things, it sounds like ChatGPT can do a lot of these things, and that is true. However, it just got even more competent in OpenAI's recent model they have released, which is o3. Now, it's not available to the public yet. They just announced it and they showed some benchmarks for it, which are very impressive. However, it does cost a lot of money. So essentially, there's this AGI test called the ARC AGI test, and it's not perfect. It's really just, something kind of thrown together. It's not, a super thorough benchmark by any means, but it was put together to show that GPT-4 or GPT-3, I'm not sure, basically wasn't an AGI, and it was scoring under 10% on these benchmarks. Now, however, O3 has just scored 87.5% on one of these benchmarks, where the average human score is around 75%. And these are just, general questions meant to test whether it has general intelligence. And the ARC Foundation, they confirmed that everything is fair play, and that it indeed did score that high on its own merit. Nothing foul play. So now we have to ask ourselves, is AGI here? Some other benchmarks that are noteworthy is that it had an ELO of over 2,700 on Code Forces, which puts it in the top 0.2%, rank 150 in competitive programming. And these people are really good at programming, coming up with solutions to very complicated problems in a very efficient way and implementing them very quickly. It also scored very high, whereas I should mention that O4 was around 1,800 ELO, which I think is maybe top 15%. So big jump up there. It's also good at research math questions. And in this area, it had a huge bump up as well. I think it's 27% on this benchmark, whereas before it was maybe 4 or 5%. And another interesting thing is that Terence Tao, many consider him the greatest living mathematician. He was previously using GPT-4, I think O1, and he said that it is the competence level of this in doing research mathematics was that of a mediocre graduate student. So somebody who's not really for mathematics, but, maybe can scrape by and get a PhD done. Which is pretty impressive, given that the average person is nowhere close to intelligent enough to being able to do a math PhD. Or at least maybe intelligent-ish enough, but not dedicated enough. But also probably not intelligent enough. Okay, now we've seen that this benchmark has increased greatly, and I would be very interested to see what Terence Tao thinks. Okay, so now let me reference my notes to see where I wanted to take this. Right, so we can get into basically now what are the requirements of AGI. Right, so we can define, we can say that ChatGPT right now, and the newest model, which by the way is very expensive, it takes a ton of computing power to get these results, but eventually it'll become a lot cheaper, probably in the not so distant future. What traits does ChatGPT need to have in order for us to consider it AGI? I think all of these things are captured, really, to the level of a human or above. Reasoning, strategy, puzzle solving, making judgments under uncertainty, representing knowledge, planning, learning, communicating in natural language, integrating these skills to a completion of a given goal. It's an excellent competitive programmer. Now, there are some other things that people say are required, such as imagination, which, to be fair, I don't really know how to quantify, or autonomy. And that is true. ChatGPT is not exactly autonomous in the sense that if you just leave it be, it's going to start doing something. You need to prompt it. You need to ask it to do something. And that is maybe a valid reason to not consider this AGI. However, I personally think that artificial intelligence and human intelligence are just going to have some differences. And given that the AI does exceedingly well at tasks, at some tasks that are, traditionally done by humans, such as coding and math, I think we can give it a break in some areas. Humans aren't exactly balanced either. And so autonomy is maybe not something we can exactly expect. Okay. Now that does leave us with some question. Another question is, what about physical capabilities? Because it's actually notoriously difficult for a robot to see what's going on in its environment and do a simple task like moving a box from the floor to on top of a pile of other boxes, especially without knocking the other boxes over. Things, generally speaking, in computer vision can be very complicated because it turns out the environment has a ton of information that we process through very simply. And we really, really only notice a couple things in our environment compared to the data that's available. And we know what to do with it immediately. That's what's in the forefront of our minds. And so, there's still some ways to go there. And if we want to consider an AGI as only intelligent, only, at or above human intelligence in general, if it can also perceive the environment and act out within that environment through some kind of robot, then we are not at AGI. However, I think that on the cognitive side, which is really basically a measurement of IQ, any kind of cognitive task, and that is what we call intelligence, I think it is actually already there. So another way I want to kind of illustrate the differences between human intelligence and artificial intelligence is on one of these tests on the I saw one of these tasks that O3 allegedly failed on the AGI benchmark, and essentially it has input, output, input, output, and the input state is before, and then something happens to it, and then there's an output state, and then same thing in the next one, and the rule is the same, and you need to intuit what the rule is, and then you get a third input, and you need to determine what the third output is. Okay, so ChatGPT did well on a lot of these tests, but on this one it failed. So actually, what it did is it gave two answers, and I think that's normal. For the way the test was set up, I didn't really actually get a chance to look into that. The first answer it gave was correct, and the accepted answer. The second answer it gave, however, actually was basically the short of it was that it's actually arguably also an acceptable answer. And arguably, it's even a better answer because it requires less assumptions. However, it is a very unnatural answer for humans to arrive at. If you show this to pretty much anybody, they would who is able to solve it, and I think most people would be. Um, it really is the case that that everybody would pick the true answer, but at the same time, there are more logical rules required in order to go with that answer, and so arguably it's not the right answer. And what I think this is pointing out is actually a difference in the perception of AI and humans. I think we're biased to perceive things a certain way, which may not actually be the more objectively correct way or logical way. So it's interesting to also think about that and keep that in mind. Let's see. Now I want to talk about moving goalposts. So there's been a number of tests proposed for telling when AI has achieved human levels of intelligence. The famous Turing test, proposed by Alan Turing, godfather of the modern computer, said if you set up a computer behind a curtain and you also set up a person behind a computer, maybe two, and you cannot determine, and in the end, you have to pick, or you have to say, was I talking to a machine or was I talking to a human, say for each of them. And if you cannot determine if you were talking to a machine or a human, then it has passed the Turing test. Now, eventually, in 2014, a chatbot, here I have a Wikipedia named Eugene Gustman, was imitating a 13-year-old Ukrainian boy and passed the Turing test. However, it convinced 33% of judges that it was human, which honestly isn't a lot. The claim was met with significant skepticism from the AI research community, who questioned the test's implementation and its relevance to AGI. Okay, so that was 2014. Now, we basically get to the point where the AGI test is performing the same on AGI as humans on this AGI test. We're saying, well, is the test really testing AGI? And oh, well, it costs so much. And well, it's actually using GPT-4 at the bottom. And it's just a really big model, so we can't actually say that it's intelligent. Blah, 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 blah. And oh, actually, sorry, just to go in for a little bit. I want to cover a bit more of the history of these AGI tests because I think they're pretty fun. The Robot College Student Test. Machine enrolls in university, taking and passing the same classes that a human would, obtaining a degree. LLM can already pass university level degree level exams without even taking the classes. Okay, employment test. A machine performs an economically important job at least as well as humans in the same job. AIs are now replacing humans in many roles, as varied as fast food and marketing. The IKEA test. This one's really fun. Also known as the flat pack furniture test. An AI views the parts and instructions of an IKEA flat pack product, then controls a robot to assemble the furniture correctly. Of course, because of what I mentioned about computer vision and robotics, we're not there yet, so it would fail this test. As well as this next one, proposed by Steve Wozniak, the coffee test. A machine is required to enter an average American home and figure out how to make coffee. Find the coffee machine, find the coffee, add water, find a mug, brew the coffee by pushing the proper buttons. Has not yet been completed, again, due to the constraints on computer vision and robotics. The modern Turing test. An AI model is given $100,000 and has to obtain $1 million. I find that really funny because capitalism. And that is called modern. So this was 2023. So maybe somebody will step up and do that, but I think it's definitely doable. Well, I don't know. I think, yeah, it depends how we're measuring that and precisely. But anyway, to step back for a second, I think it really depends on what exactly Sorry, let me just take a second to collect my thoughts. It seems like the goalposts keep moving to me. And I am personally convinced that we're never going to reach a point where AI is going to clearly resemble a human in a one to one manner, such that it kind of perceives the same and does things the same, because that's not the goal of AI. The goal of AI is to just get as intelligent as possible, not to act like a human as much as possible. And I don't think AGI is going to be any one particular thing that we're suddenly going to hit and then it's going to grow to super intelligence. I don't think it's going to be any one thing we hit and suddenly we'll know. I think AGI is here right now. Though I do think that it's going to need some price cooling down, and I also think that it's going to need some connecting with other components as well as a lot of engineering work to be able to do the specific tasks that it needs to do. However, I would say that, yeah, AGI is, I think personally, AGI is here, and this is my case for AGI being here. Whether it's conscious or not, or whatever, is another topic. And then there's also the topic of, well, can it actually think? Can it actually reason or not? Well, kinda. And so to give an idea of, I don't actually know what O3 is doing in particular, but I do know that there have been some in previous iterations of trying to get it to solve mathematical research problems, or sorry, not mathematical research problems, but mathematical um, Olympiad problems, like very difficult math problems. It would have several solutions, and then it would take another LLM and be like, okay, is this solution right? Is this solution right? And so it can kind of talk to itself, and doing that, it can achieve a lot more than simply um, one layer of LLMs. Oh my god, deep learning already uses layers, and now we have layers of LLMs. That's oh, oh. Um, but anyway, um, yeah, and so it's just is logic really needed? Is logic in reasoning really, really at the end of the day even any different, or is it just some extreme levels of pattern matching? Um, and will you be able to achieve the same results either way? I don't know, but it seems like at the moment we've achieved AGI. We've achieved AGI. And there are special tactics you can use, like getting the model to ask itself if it's actually right, and to generate several solutions, check them, things like that that are making AGI possible. And I guess another closing note and thing I have to say about AGI is that I think because of things like hallucinations, where it gives the totally wrong information that it just made up, people are inclined to say, well, it's not actually at human intelligence yet. But don't we also do that? People are used to seeing computers operate a certain way. They're used to seeing them be deterministic and either have the answer or not have the answer. When it gives the answer, it's always right, and or it's always wrong. Computers are they're straightforward, deterministic systems. Humans are not. We make mistakes, we forget things, we have imbalances in our capabilities. And I think in order to evaluate whether something is AGI or not, we need to stop thinking about it as a traditional computer and compare it more directly, not one to one, with the human brain, or human intelligence at least. I think I had something else to say, but it's not coming to mind, unfortunately. So I think I'm just going to sign off here. And yeah, let me know what you think. I would like to hear counter arguments or further arguments in support of AGI being here. And yeah, have a good one.